I think Shelley was born with the happy gene. I have to say that because when I look back at her past life, she was always this free, open spirit that gave thanks and enjoyed the basket of gifts that life always had, and partook of that without judgments or issues, and that's one of the big keys. Myself, hell no, it was a hell of a journey. I nearly died, I nearly killed myself, I ran into a huge medical and physical and emotional issue when I hit my brick wall, and I had to come to the conclusion that I had got it wrong, regardless of how successful I was. Don't matter how many millions I made, doesn't matter how I outperformed everybody else. If I wasn't feeding my soul, if I wasn't doing something that was inside of me in the right way, I couldn't be happy. And when you're not happy, that constriction of the cells, the collapse of the electrical fields is all the disease. So I learnt about that. I figured it out. I studied it. I went around the world for 5 years. I read over 3,000 books. I looked at all the world's religions. I looked at old cultures mostly. Because, you know, in old cultures we didn't have crime. We didn't have courts. We didn't have police. We didn't, and they lived, you know, for 3 billion years and survived. So there was something wrong with what we were doing. So I looked at that and come to the conclusion, well, you know, I have to let go of my judgments. I have to let go of my issues. I have to just enjoy this experience called life and feed this mechanical, chemical, electrical thing so that it can actually function. Because when you're unhappy, when you're sad, when you're bitchy, when you're angry, it's usually a hormonal imbalance. And so therefore what drives the hormones? Well, you know, the essential fatty acids, the protein, the whole electrical field gets out of balance. Well, of course you're going to feel bitchy. You know, you get a gut ache, you know how miserable you feel. So I took the process of the ancient cultures, looked at it from a modern perspective, understood it from an electrical perspective, and made a life-conscious choice that, hey, yeah, life can be happy. It can be really, really good. And so, yeah, we practice that on a daily basis. And because after a while, like anything, the first time you drive your car into the garage, when you're learning to drive, it's, oh, where's the edge? And now you're just driving to stop two inches away from the wall. It becomes second nature when you've figured out what to do and you do it long enough.
Now, if I can get personal, and you don't have to answer this, but what event in your life at a certain point in time made you realize you had to go on this long journey that has brought you to where you are today? If you were willing to share.
Yeah, I totally. I'm just trying to think of the pivotal thing. I think it's the pivotal thing that had a huge bearing on me, that at the start of my changes, I was on a farm in New Zealand working on a big dairy farm, big owner owned 500 cows, and we're going through a huge crisis with soil contamination with DDT that the government had put on 40 years beforehand. It was a beautiful day in the middle of the summer in a bad drought. The cows were very hungry. There was no food around. And we were going to get some very pure water from the Southern Alps to make some homeopathy tinctures for our cows. And I picked up this lady who I'd met, who was from the city, never been on a farm in her life, Miss Rich Bitch I called her. And I picked her up in my really disgustingly dirty farm truck, and she put her hand on my knee and she said, "Oh, isn't it a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful sunshiny day today?" Well, I cracked. Here I had 500 cows starving, the whole county was absolutely drought stricken, and this silly city bitch was saying how wonderful the sunshine was, when every one of us had been praying for 3 months for rain. And I just cracked up, and I just exploded. And for about an hour and a half drive into the mountains, she sat there, absolutely not fazed by my well, I would have shot me if I was sitting next to me. I was that angry. It was just vile anger coming out of me. And finally I was actually drained, and I just drove the truck off the road, run it down through a little ditch, and just stalled it, and I just collapsed on the steering wheel and cried for 2 hours. I hadn't cried in 30 years. And she sat there and took it all the time. And finally, when all this emotion, this pent-upness come out of me, she just put a hand on me. She said, "It's okay, I can help if you want me to." That was the start of the change in my life.
Wow, that's like a godsend.
Yeah, she was sent. What she did with me and how she did it, this angry young farmer who was struggling for his survival at the time. Yeah, she changed my life, and she actually funded me for 4 years while I learnt about natural health, about things. She sent me everywhere. She supplied 3,000 books that I read, and I've become a sponge for knowledge, which I've always been a sponge because I'm a Gemini. And I just
we know Gemini.
I learned about life. I learned how life works.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I can see now from that what prompted you to develop a skincare line known as Electric Body. And these particular products.
That's another journey, yes.
Yeah, I know it's another journey, but I know that through this journey of yours, that from that instant in time, has brought you full circle now to care so much about people. You've developed Electric Body, which is a new skincare line. Tell us about that.
Well, it really, after my meltdown, I started to. She helped me understand some natural health principles that rebuilt my body, because at the time I had heart disease, so the doctor said. I had asthma, so the doctor said. I was failing, my life force was going down because all the drugs and that weren't doing anything. So she turned around and got me on natural health and rebuilt my body, or my body rebuilt as the changes I put into place. So I become passionate about understanding what life is, because the drugs didn't work, but this other stuff did. And so that became a 10-year incredible learning curve. And then I realised all this passion that I had, this fire inside me, could pour out my hands in the healing arts. And so I started working on people and took their pain away by touching them and just being around them sometimes. And but I always had weird things happening to me, even when I was physical on the real world, as most people would call it. And so that I was able to develop that and understand that and learn the mechanism by which that worked, and become quite a well-known natural health therapist. In the process of that, I've seen probably 30,000 people, and about 75% of those being women. When I first started, there was 3 or 4 cases of women's breast cancer a year, and nowadays I probably see nearly over half the people women I see got breast cancer, or they know somebody is. In fact, when we look at the graph, from the Second World War, when breast cancer was extraordinarily rare, to now, and if we extrapolate that graph forward, in our lifetime, 1 in 3 women are going to get breast cancer and possibly die from it. That is the biggest slaughter of women ever in human history.
Wow.
Now then, everybody says smoking is so bad. Yeah, it's probably not good. However, less than 1.25 million smokers, less 1 in 200, 250 million smokers actually die of smoking, cancer linked to smoking. And even that's a pretty far-fetched story. That's 1 in 250,000. 1 in 3 women are going to get breast cancer. Something dramatically happened. Now, you can't say it's a genetic change, because genetics takes thousands of years to move, very, very slowly. But since the Second World War, before literally no breast cancer to now 1 in 3 women, something's dramatically changed. Yes, our food has changed, but we're all eating the same food. Yes, our environment's changed, we're all living in the same environment. What did women do differently since the Second World War that had never been done before, that men didn't do in the last 40, 50 years? And that is putting on chemical compounds on their incredible sieve-like and absorbable organ called their skin, and it's called skin creams.
Skin creams. So you formulated and came up with this wonderful skincare line. What makes it so unique and so different that it contributes and gives women and men what they need? What you said? You said it gives them topically and works on the inside.
It's a brilliant question, and it's quite involved, but I'll try to keep it simple. This thing that we call a body is a farm and a garden. That's all it is. It is a massive, live, multifaceted system of microbacteria, enzymes, life. Our body is teeming with life. We are not just this body. We are a farm of billions and billions and billions of live bacteria, enzymes, and microbes that create the health and vitality of this thing. When we put dead compounds on this live thing, and our skin is amazing. Every square centimetre, you've got about up to 1 million critters living in your skin, every square centimetre. This is a live farm. Yeah, it is. Put it under a microscope and see it, electron microscope, and it's just teeming farm. So if you put a dead compound that doesn't give life on this, what are you doing to the farm that is keeping you alive and healthy? And what then it goes through the dermal layers of the skin because it's designed to, because that's how an anti-wrinkle cream works. It's really simple. You put a chemical irritant with a transdermal, goes through the dermal layers and irritates the third dermal layer of the cell membrane. And of course, when you get a cell membrane irritated, it swells. Well, out comes the wrinkle for a moment in time. But also that goes
through all three levels of skin.
So it goes into the blood. And what's your body going to do with a chemical or any other, even natural, non-life-giving compound? The body does only one of two things, that everything it touches, induces, or gets put onto it. That compound either gives it life or takes life away. Nothing never not happens. Something always happens. It's either giving life or it's taking life away.
How does your products
all other
life?
skincares in the world take life away because they're biologically dead compounds. I went back to nature, went back to my farming life, and I said, what is the most powerful life-giving substance known in the universe? And this was after a promise, because once I found the index between the rise in breast cancer and chemical skin creams, I took all my women clients off all skincare. If they wanted me to help them, treat them, you've got to know skincare. One dying cancer client, beautiful lady, that we got 18 months past the use-by date, but she had stage 4 cancer when she came to me. She was lying on my table, she said, but Denie, a lady's allowed to feel that she's got beautiful skin. Oh my God, that's the essence of being a woman. And she looked up at me and 2 little tears rolled down her eyes. She said, Denie, why don't you make something that gives us beautiful skin that doesn't kill us?
Wow.
And
great
that
statement.
one sentence
changed
my life again. Oh, I've lived so many lives. Something happened in my soul, and I looked straight back in the eyes and I can do that, and I will. And that was 7 years and $2 million ago. I sold everything in this program. I went back to my farming roots and said, what's the most powerful life-giving substance in the world? And that is a compound called colostrum. That is the first mammary gland excretion from every mammal on earth. When the baby is born, most of the biological system is not working. Hey, we've been freeloading on our mothers for 9 months, let's face it.
Right.
And we get born, and 80 trillion cells have got to start up. You get put on the breast and you suckle that little colostrum, and 2 little suckles in 10 milliseconds, 80 trillion cells turn on. It is the most powerful, life-giving substance known in the universe. Every cell knows what it is. And I instantly, like a bell went off, like I got inspiration from divine inspiration, and I said, I'm going to make a biologically live colostrum-based skin cream to not only make the skin beautiful, to start up every single cell and give it life. Because when I asked myself the question in answer to Barbara, who said, make something that gives us beautiful skin that doesn't kill us, my first thing I asked myself, what is beautiful skin? And the only answer to that is healthy skin.
Healthy.
How do you make healthy skin? Number one, you've got to make the cell healthy. How do you make the cell healthy? God's rules, colostrum.